Hello, and welcome to Pilgrim Lutheran Church and School's virtual Sunday school. Shh, it's me, Mrs. Everett. You're probably wondering, why am I in disguise today as a sheep? Well, we'll get to that in just a minute, but first I want to share with you some exciting news. We have picked a song that we're going to sing together again in the month of May, and we're going to need your help. So keep your eye open for some individual invitations to sing the song. I'm going to sing when the Spirit says sing. And we have gotten the technology to the point where we know how to record households individually and combine them into a single track to make one beautiful medley of singing. So we look forward to having you participate with us with that. So we will get into today's reading, and we're going to have a guest reader, the sheep. And as we read, you'll understand why the sheep is with us today. And our background is actually from a place where a lot of sheep live in England. It's a very, very famous place. So let's go ahead and go to our reading. So the reading is Jesus the Good Shepherd, John 10:11-18. Jesus was the best kind of leader. He cared about his friends and disciples. He wanted them to feel safe and strong and loved. I am the good shepherd, said Jesus. The disciples were confused. Jesus was a teacher of people, not a shepherd of sheep. Jesus saw the disciples' faces. What does a good shepherd do? Jesus asked. A good shepherd leads his sheep to food and water, Andrew said. He protects the sheep from dangerous wolves, John added. He finds lost sheep and brings them back to the flock, Peter answered. I do all of these things for you, Jesus said. I lead you to the love of God. I protect you from harm. When you lose your way, I find you. I am the good shepherd. The disciples nodded. Jesus cared for them, just like a good shepherd cares for his sheep. Jesus knew each of the disciples very well, like a good shepherd knows the sound and face of each of his sheep. Jesus looked at his disciples with love in his eyes. The best shepherds love their sheep, he said. I am the kind of shepherd who loves you enough to die for you. This is what I have learned from my Father. So as we listen to that story, there's a couple parts of it right towards the end that I found really interesting. One is that it says that Jesus knows the sound and face of his sheep. So I thought, well, if he knows the face of the sheep, would he recognize the sheep if they were in disguise or wearing masks like we all have to do right now? But then I went to the next paragraph right after that, and it says that Jesus looked at his disciples with love in his eyes. Of course, where does love come from? Does it come from recognizing someone's face? Right? It comes from the heart. And so if Jesus recognizes the sound and faces of all of his sheep, but he also loves all of his sheep, then surely he would recognize them even in disguise and even with masks, because he would know what was in their hearts. So if Jesus knows what's in our hearts, he knows what we look like and he knows what we're feeling, and we don't want to be the lost sheep. Does that mean that Jesus knows what's in our hearts when maybe what's in our hearts is maybe some bad feelings or some sad feelings or some angry feelings or some fear? Should we not have those feelings? Should we just put those aside so that we can stay in the flock and not lost? Well, there's a popular science fiction movie that maybe would make you believe that. I believe they say something like anger and fear leads to the dark side. But I think what Jesus is saying in this reading is the exact opposite, right? He is saying that he's the good shepherd, that you can have those feelings. He'll know you're having those feelings. He'll know that you're feeling maybe a little bit lost, and he'll go and he'll be the good shepherd to put his arm around you and bring you back into the flock. So I think that character that maybe went to the dark side, what he was doing was trying to manage all of those anger and fear emotions on his own, and he certainly didn't have a good shepherd bringing him back. So that is where we are lucky that we do have that good shepherd. And he's helping us manage all of our emotions, both the good and the bad and everything in between. And so our lives obviously have gone into a little bit of upheaval. And some of the things that we used to do to manage our emotions and deal with our emotions, like maybe spending time with friends or playing sports or getting together to sing, those things aren't happening right now. So it sort of brings to the forefront what can we do when we're feeling all of those emotions, and especially the ones that might lead us to be lost sheep. I think we're in luck because we have a tool in our faith toolbox that we put into our faith backpacks as we're going through this journey. And I know you all have heard about it before. It's prayer. Who remembers our prayer spinners that we made in the fall? And we talked about all the different reasons why we would pray. Praise was on there, thank was on there, asking for healing was on there, but also lament was on there. So no matter what we're feeling right now, a really useful way for us to open our hearts and let Jesus know if we're in the flock or if we're maybe needing that little guidance back into the flock is to pray. And I think, in addition to prayer, there's other things that we can do. We can still do the walking, we can still do the phone calling, we can still do the Zooming, but nothing is quite as powerful as the prayer. Another thing that I've done in addition to prayer is just simply be still. And I've seen some good advice lately that says, listen to sounds. What are you thinking about the sounds? Pay attention to feeling, tactile feeling. How does that make you feel? Is it something you like, you don't like? But when it comes to sound, the other morning, I was hearing some birds singing outside my window. I got really excited about that because I felt like after all of the praying that I had been doing, that was God's message to me. And he was saying, I am here. These birds are part of my creation. I do hear you. And we are still part of the flock, and we are coming together. So I really enjoy this reading from John. I hope you do too. And as we move through the month of May, I think we'll be able to move into those other parts of prayer that we really get excited about, right? The praise, the thank, and of course the continued ask for healing, because there's a lot of things that we planned through May that we want to celebrate, that we will continue to celebrate. And we can do it together as part of our pilgrim flock. So I'm glad you're part of it, and I look forward to singing and praying and praising with you throughout the month of May.